Joining me now is the Republican from the state of Montana, Congressman Ryan Zinke, who was also, by the way, the first Secretary of the Department of the Interior in the Trump administration, the first go-around. Congressman, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, great to be with you. I'm in Montana, and it is snowing, and it is gorgeous.
That picture did look gorgeous. So, look, DOGE, Congressman, right? You are, correct me if I'm wrong, among the many that believe that DOGE needs to look into government spending, peel it back, let's trim back. But I wonder how it works when you see those headlines in your own community with your constituents losing their jobs. What's the balance?
Well, a couple things. One is the concern was the seasonal workers coming up. Fire season, obviously is a concern. And in parks, the summer season, they get a lot bigger. So you look at the seasonal, those have been exempt. And the last hiring, and what did they get hired for? 4 years ago, what did the hiring look like? It was thousands of people hired for old growth regulation. Looking at that, probably. So I think it's fair to look at it. They were last year's, probationary. But the bottom line is this: if the job is important, you'll keep it. If the job is on the line, it'll be looked at. And if the job is unnecessary, it'll be cut.
With hundreds, though, in your community potentially losing their jobs, how does it impact your neighbors and those who live around you?
Well, again, what do they do? Is a job critical? And where's the government at? What was that job? Should they be reorganized? Look, in Department of Defense, which is a little different, Department of Defense has 800,000 DOD employees. That's non-uniform. And we look at how much that costs our government, that's about $200 billion when you add in pension, salary, and health care. And on combat strength, that's about 16 aircraft carriers a year in combat strength.
Have you
parts? You look at what jobs are critical. As a Secretary of Interior, what critical was in my parks when I ran it? Clean bathrooms. I didn't shut down parks. I made sure it was clean bathrooms. So we're going to look through it. I trust that Doug Burgum, the Secretary of Interior, is going to evaluate it. And at the end of the day, when the park season starts, they're going to have the right level of employees in our parks, and everyone's going to enjoy our beautiful, beautiful gems of our public lands.
Let me ask you about it, because you were, of course, the Department of the Interior, the Secretary, the head of it, in the first Trump administration. 67,000 total employees, 11 sub-agencies, $17 billion in outlays in 2024. You know what's there, Congressman. You ran the place for a couple years. In your view, how much of it needs to go?
Well, I think the question should be, let's reorganize. And really quickly, even if you have a salmon and a trout in the same stream, I mean, you have Forest Service. The top is agriculture through Department of Agriculture. Underneath is Department of Interior through Bureau of Reclamation. You have two different departments in the same stream. I thought it's not a matter of cutting sometimes or even savings. What it's a matter of is reorganizing so you can do the mission.
But some folks have to go, right?
You look at reorganization. I think a lot of this is legacy. And what do we face? We face permitting, we face conservation, and recreation. Those are the three biggest uses of our public lands. And we want to reorganize so we meet those missions.
I hear you on reorganize. If Elon Musk were to ask you, or the DOGE team were to ask you, if you need to drop down the number of employees, if you need to drop down the spending, what would you tell them?
Well, on the spending side, I would say, look, let's reorganize for success. Let's make sure on public lands that we take care of our public lands, that we manage our public lands. Let's make sure they don't burn down every year. So what's the level of effort we need to do to manage it? And do we need that many biologists to do study after study after study? Or do we need more foresters to make sure we have a healthy forest? I think everything's on the table. I like what DOGE is doing. Let's shake it up, because business as usual is not working in the great outdoors. We're burning our forests up. We're not using our resources wisely. And I think everyone can say there's a lot of room for improvement. But first, let's get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse.
Let me leave you with this. The parks are not in danger from your perch.
No, actually, I think the parks are in pretty good shape, because Doug Burgum, there's no one better in our parks. And look, he's got a lot of advice, and we want to make sure our parks are healthy and last in the future, because they are America's greatest gem.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.